Irishman is playing the lead in Gladiator 2. But more importantly, they're making Gladiator 2? When did that happen? Let's talk about that. Hey guys, I'm Karl. Welcome to my movie film show. Feel free to subscribe down below if you would like to. But today we're here to talk about Gladiator 2. It's actually a thing. It's actually happening. In the last few days, Deadline.com broke the exclusive news that Gladiator 2 is not only happening, Ridley Scott is not only returning, but it's going to star Irishman Paul Mescal.
I'm Paul Mescal.
I'll get back to Paul in a minute. Ridley Scott always said he wanted to return to the Coliseum, and he's returning to direct, which is one major positive for this sequel, which I think a lot of people thought was never going to happen, perhaps never even wanted to happen, because Gladiator is such a phenomenal movie. Does it even need a sequel? We'll talk about that later. The original Gladiator film earned over $460 million at the worldwide box office, and personally I think it's one of the best films of all time. The movie was nominated for 12 Academy Awards, and it went on to win 5 of them, including Best Picture. And now we're getting a sequel. As I mentioned, Paul Mescal, an Irishman who recently in the last couple of years rose to prominence after his roles in the likes of Normal People, a role which shot him up to mega stardom. He's now reportedly set to take on the lead role of Lucius, the son of Maximus, in the sequel, after reportedly having a very, very, very good meeting with Ridley Scott, which resulted in him becoming the first choice for Ridley Scott for the role. The interesting thing with Paul Mescal is he seems to have this meteoric rise all of a sudden. All of a sudden he's gone from this TV show, which at the time when it came out, not a lot of people knew a whole lot about it, but it came out, it started making waves, and people started talking about it. Here in Ireland, he was being talked about a lot. And his rise reminds me a lot already of Barry Keoghan, an actor who's very well known now, has had some phenomenal films in recent years. He's been part of some mega franchises, including Dunkirk, Eternals, and Batman, The Batman, where he played the Joker, or is set to play the Joker perhaps in the next Batman. He pops up everywhere now. And he seemed to come out of nowhere in Hollywood. In Ireland, he's been in a couple of small shows like Love Hate, and not even as a major character. And then all of a sudden, he's in these mega Hollywood movies in lead roles, playing one of the biggest villains of all time as well recently in The Batman. And Paul Mescal seems to be following in those footsteps. He's another Irishman who's slowly gone from a TV show to some movies that are getting some good reviews at film festivals like After Sun. And now all of a sudden, he's getting this meteoric rise into one of the biggest film franchises that's going to happen. Because I know I'm not alone in thinking that Gladiator is one of the greatest movies of all time. A lot of people think that because it's a phenomenal movie. If you haven't checked it out, I'd highly recommend watching it on your next movie night. It was one of those movies when I was younger, I always put off watching it. I don't know what it was. Something about the box art perhaps put me off watching it. But when I finally watched it, I think I was like 19 or 20 when I actually watched it, I was blown away. I was just mesmerized by this movie, which completely grabbed my attention for however long it is. I think it might be up to 3 hours. But I remember just being completely blown away when the end credits rolled and just sitting there in stunned silence of what I'd seen. Will the sequel have that effect? Probably not. Generally, sequels that come out this far later on don't really work, although Top Gun Maverick may have broken the mold. The story of the sequel reportedly takes place years after the initial film. Of course, it would have to because it's coming out years after the original movie after all. But the question is, does Gladiator need a sequel? Would a bad sequel damage the reputation of the original movie? And more importantly, are you, as a cinema viewer, as a moviegoer, as perhaps even a fan of Gladiator, excited for a sequel? Maybe Ridley Scott being there puts it over the edge. Maybe having a new actor in Paul Mescal, that could be the thing that pushes it over the edge. Or maybe it could be a complete disaster. Time will tell, but let me know all about it in the comment section below. What do you think? Gladiator 2, is it going to be a masterpiece or a disaster piece?